Hello, my name is Declan Carlin, and today we're going to be talking about Tenet, the new Christopher Nolan spy film with an extra layer of time meddling. So in this film we've got John David Washington, we've got Robert Pattinson, we've got Elizabeth Debicki and Kenneth Branagh. So our protagonist, John David Washington, has to enter a world of espionage in order to save us all from a Russian oligarch. Or he's already saved us. Or he's saving us, as well as having saved us, and is starting to save us. It's a time thing, it's time travel. If you're looking for like a linear story, you're not going to find it here. It's your classic Nolan. Coy must have been awful as a kid, trying to teach him how to tell the time. Okay kids, this is a clock and it goes 1 to 12. Excuse me, what if 3 and 4 happen at the same time and 5 actually comes before 2? Fuck off, Chris. One of the key themes of this film is time, and the fact that how I understand it in the film, it's they found a way to reverse entropy. So everything that has happened, in theory, to our eyes, goes backwards. It's almost like two worlds. One's going forwards, one's going backwards. I think that's the best way to sort of explain it. As with all time travel-esque orientated things, there's a lot of questions. So naturally, I feel like we've got to this stage where it's just best to shut your brain off and just go with the flow. Even at points in this film, some of the characters don't think too hard about it. I like to think I got the grasp of it. There's some little bits that I'm still unsure about, which might become more clear in a second watch. And one of the issues I found is that because of this, obviously the emotional impact feels a little bit lost. However, with this time reverse entropy coating, it does make all the action scenes look really dope. What could be seen as a very simple story is suddenly made a lot more interesting with this dynamic. Even if times you're a bit like, huh? As for the performances, I thought pretty much most of them were great. I really liked John David Washington in this. I liked his swagger that he had when he was doing his spy stuff. He has some little one-liners that were humorous. I also thought Robert Pattinson was good, very charming. I especially liked them when they were playing off each other. The weakest for me was Kenneth Branagh. He plays this Russian oligarch, and I just didn't find him threatening at all, really. There's many times where his demeanour was quite small and he didn't really go for this sort of empowering vibe. But there's times where he sort of hoddled off, if that's a word. I didn't find his threateningness all too there. For instance, he's talked about in the third person. We don't really see him till a bit later on, and he's always talked about this as a big threatening figure. But literally one of the first sentences he says is about how he's going to take our protagonist, cut a hole in his neck, castrate him, and then put his balls in his neck, and how much he enjoys watching men struggle to grab their balls as they choke on them. Which I found very funny. I don't think it was intended to be funny. Or if it was, that's an interesting choice to make one of the first lines of your threatening villain a very comical one. Because then instantly the threat seems a little bit diminished for me. The dialogue is exposition heavy, which is understandable because as we're dealing with time travel, you need to keep the audience along with you. And what better way to just explain it. However, like I said before, with John David Washington and Robert Pattinson, with the way they interact with each other, there's some little fun moments where occasionally someone says a witty line or something comical. So there's enough play there and enough of a coat not to get too bogged down in exposition. However, one issue is that, as with most Nolan films, the sound mix is, I don't know if it's poor. I don't know if it's just not adjusted. The cinema I went to just didn't have a good sound system to implement it. But I found that whenever I watch Nolan films, the sounds in the scene and the score are very loud, whereas the dialogue seems quite quiet compared. At times in this, you have the score overpowering the dialogue, which isn't great when, like I said before, you kind of need the exposition because a lot's happening as far as time travel goes. What also doesn't help is that in this film, a lot of people wear masks or face coverings, which also muffles their dialogue. I don't know if it's just a trait with Nolan films, because I found it in Dunkirk as well. or just the way that they released the film with the sound and then the setup in my cinema that I went to watch it didn't quite fit. Having said that, the score is great. It's by Ludwig Göransson, who I know him best from doing work on Community and working with Donald Glover, but he's also scored Black Panther and Creed films as well. Yeah, the score's great in this. It's like there's a nice blend of orchestral instruments as well as synthesizers, and especially there's like a pulsating sense to it. Visually, as with most Nolan films, is great to look at. Also admire his use of practical effects when most people would use alternatives like miniatures or CGI nowadays. Like in this, the fact that they had to buy a jumbo jet and then crash said jumbo jet is pretty spectacular to watch. Like I said before, all the action scenes are very interesting to watch because of this reverse entropy, reversing time thing going on. So yeah, I don't think this film will be for everyone, but I enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Well, I'm not sure. I will see you.